I think it was a few times that I thought I booked it, like for sure, and you didn't, and like just being heartbroken, and having my mom and my dad kind of pick up the pieces, and I think that was the few times that they actually started to question themselves: are we doing the right thing by letting them do it and do this, and try to act and take on this profession that is such a gamble and it's a lottery, such a lottery, and you just train yourself to like manage your expectations for the most part when it comes to auditions. I know a system that I started doing was like after the audition, after I left out, I would just throw my sides away. If they really want me, I'll just print them out again. I'll go out and I'll go through the hassle, go to Kinko's, and 'cause I didn't have a printer at the time, and print them out again. And that was just my way of training myself to just forget about it when you leave. It's nothing, it's out of your hands. You've done all you can do. Worrying about it is not gonna, help you get the job. So, it's tough, when it has nothing to do with you. You could have the most talent in the world, feel as though you're perfect for it, and still not get it because maybe the other lead is a little too tall, and you guys don't compliment each other well on screen. That has nothing to do with you whatsoever. And just kind of wrapping your head around the process and knowing that it's completely out of your hands, it's just easier for you to kind of let go and move on to the next thing.
That I wanted to get people to realize, stop using the fact that you don't have money as an excuse. I understand everybody else in the world tells you need money to make money and all that other kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I want to give people the mentality of, all right, listen, I'm going to need to do this myself, and I need to use my Slack resources or the resources that are right in front of me to get where I want to go. So now, after a lot of people have responded to that book really well, and at first I thought they were going to hear Power Broke. I don't want to be reminded of me being broke, or I didn't want to hear when Dame was broke. They responded to really, really amazing way. They started to ask, well, what are the techniques? Now I have the mentality. What are techniques that you do every single day, and why are you more successful than this person, or this person more successful than this person? We all have the same 24 hours in a day. So that's when I created this new one, Rise and Grind. And the theory is that, listen, every day we're going to rise. If we're not going to rise, we're dead. Right? That's your defense. You're just rising, right?
Sure.
But your grind is your offense. And I've studied, I believe, I've studied dozens of subjects, but I put about 16 subjects in this new book, and they range from everywhere from award-winning actress Catherine Zeta-Jones to Carlos Santana, to our crazy friend Gary Vee, to a young man named Kyle Maynard who was born with no arms and no legs, and Army crawled Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm sure you know him as well. To various other people, Brian Lee, who started Shoe Dazzle and
with Kardashians, right?
With Kardashians, LegalZoom, and then all of a sudden he does Honest Company with Jessica Alba.
I love that story. He wanted to be a rapper.
He wanted to be a rapper. I think he was a young Asian man who told his parents he's moving to New York to be a rapper. I'm not even going to tell you his rapping name. I'll let you read the book. I asked them all the same questions, and then some different ones. What do you do the first 90 minutes of your day? What do you do the last 90 minutes of your day? What did you do when you were 20 that you no longer do when you're 40? What did you do when you were 20 that you forgot to do, and then when you start doing it again when you were 40 or 50, you realize what got you back to this point?
Yeah.
And I found probably over 50 things in there that everybody did in some way or another very similar. Whether in the Joel Osteen, whether it's in the morning they either prayed, meditated, mentally like me, set a goal, and zoned out. They took some time for themselves, and I found various other things, and it's amazing and fascinating. So this is what I wanted to create for people, because I wanted them to either say, I'm on the right track, I'm doing something, everybody was laughing at me when I do this, or maybe I should try this one, or this one doesn't work as well as this one.
Yeah.
And I've been using it myself, a lot of the stuff, and it's been working for me too. It's been helping improve my life, and I'm a student of my books, because I'm trying to ask them the same exact thing to other people.
I put out a post about, stop blaming other people, start blaming yourself. I'm reading the comments right now, it's super fascinating. Of course, so my whole thing is like, blame myself for everything. Of course there's other things that people are doing, right? Like if somebody runs me over with a car right now and they were drunk, is that my fault or is their fault? I get that you can blame that other person. I'm not so much worried about the actuality of the event. I'm talking about the mindset. Tyler, when are people gonna understand this, the mindset? the mindset of blaming yourself allows you to do so much more. So when it's 8 out of 10 times on you, you're moving forward instead of looking backwards. Sure, the 2 out of 10, but if you just have that mindset, it's just winner mindset. It's about mindset. Everybody's taking every word I say so practical. Yes, I understand that there's issues in the world. Like, it wasn't your fault that an earthquake like drilled your house. I get it. It's the mindset. To me, I'd be like, man, I shouldn't have lived in California. I mean, I don't know, like, mindset. It helps you 8 out of 10 times.
It's hard for me to encourage people to act because I know the stress and the uncertainty and nothing's guaranteed, and it's such a dice roll, you know, it's such a gamble. But you can never tell somebody not to follow their dreams and what they want to do. So it's always a constant toss up. You know, I start off with the negatives. Like, okay, I'm X, Y, and Z. This is what it is, raw. You know, like, you know, you might be on a 7-Eleven diet for a while, and you might sleep out your car. I mean, I did it. You know what I'm saying? And you might go on 100 auditions and you might get 2 callbacks, you know, and you gotta have a thick skin, you know, it's a very shallow, very vain industry, you know, like you said, you could be a great actor, have all the talent, but you might not be built for film, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's a harsh reality that people can't take. So if I lay out everything like that and people still wanna do it, then I'm like, okay, cool, let's go. You know, I'll pass on that along information, because I think that's my responsibility too, is to tell you, you know, it's easy to see the good stuff when it's successful, when it happens the right way, you know, like the reward, but very rarely people like really understand like the lows, you know, like how lonely this industry is too, you know, how much time you spend by yourself, you know what I mean, and alone, and you know, when things get bad, it could be a lonely place, man.
To be anxious is to have anxiety about something that hadn't even happened yet. Some of you are so worried by the threat of trouble. You're not in trouble, it's just that trouble has threatened you. And the threat of what might happen, what could happen, is wearing you down. Half of the things that you thought were going to happen never did happen. But if you allow those thoughts to dwell in your mind, it will succeed at robbing you of your peace, robbing you of your joy, robbing you of your life, just because you thought yourself into a nervous breakdown. You thought yourself into depression. You thought yourself into defeatism. The mind is the battleground. The fight is in your mind. So I want to challenge you to waste no more effort wrestling with other people. Oh, I lost you. I lost you. You were doing real good. I lost you. Your destiny, your future is not predicated on the decision of someone else. You wasted too much of your life trying to change other people's mind about you. It doesn't matter what they think about you. God is not going to bless you by their opinion. God is going to bless you by how you see yourself. Touch somebody and say, I believe I'm coming out. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what I'm going to have to go through. I don't know what I'm going to lose along the way, but I still believe that I'm coming out. I've been broke, I've been busted and disgusted, but I still believe that I'm coming out. I'm locked up in prison. They say I'll never get out, but I still believe that I'm coming out. I'm coming out if I don't have nowhere to stay. I'm coming out if my husband married somebody else. I'm coming out if I don't have no job. I'm coming out.
You had a great job. I remember you had a great apartment on the Upper West Side.
I'd been married for a year.
You'd been married for a year.
I had not been eating biscuits for 9 months.
And I'm just, you know, how did you go through making the decision to drop what was a very good job and take this chance? It all seems very obvious now, right? This many years later that it paid off, but at the time it was not obvious.
No, it wasn't. And I did do a lot of soul searching. I went to my boss at the time, and I really liked my job. And I told my boss I was going to go do this thing, start an internet bookstore. And my wife I'd already told my wife, and she's like, great, let's go. And I said to my boss, I was going to do this. He's like, this is a good idea. He said, I think this is a good idea, but it would be an even better idea for somebody who didn't already have a good job. And that sort of made some logical sense to me, and he convinced me to think about it for a couple of days, so I went away. And I was really trying to get my head around how to think about this. And I think, for me, the right way to make that kind of very personal decision, because those decisions are personal, they're not like data-driven business decisions. They are, what does your heart say? And for me, the best way to think about it was to project myself forward to age 80 and say, look, when I'm 80 years old, I want to have minimized the number of regrets that I have. I don't want to be 80 years old in a quiet moment of reflection, thinking back over my life and cataloging a bunch of major regrets. And I think that regrets, our biggest regrets, in most cases, you can murder somebody, okay, you'd regret that. But in most cases, our biggest regrets turn out to be acts of omission. It's paths not taken, and they haunt us. We wonder, what would have happened? I loved that person, and I never told them. And then they married somebody else. I didn't do this. And so that's the frame of mind that I put myself in. And once I did that, once I thought about it that way, it was immediately obvious to me. I knew that when I'm 80, I would never regret trying this thing that I was super excited about and it failing. If it failed, fine. I would be very proud of the fact when I'm 80 that I tried.
Entrepreneurs have one thing in common. They keep going. They'll change the rules. They'll reinvent the rules. Mm-hmm. They don't just take one answer. So a real entrepreneur, it really makes no difference which country you're in. That's my belief. So, I
love that.
It's just a mindset. It's F you. You mess with me, I'll find a way around it. I have a friend, he's multi-family rich guy from France. And, France is as communistic as it gets.
75% top line for $1 million earners.
Yeah, but that's why he lives here. So he started buying vineyards in Napa and Sonoma. So he went back to the French government and says, it's his wine. He says, I want to ship my wine in bulk to California. And the government says, you can't do that. So
this is the French government saying you can't ship it.
Yeah, and here's the guy, I think he's 5 generations, French wine guy. This guy is an entrepreneur. He says, okay, I can't ship him in barrels. The guy goes, yeah. He says, okay, I'll ship him in bottles. So he bottled all of his stuff. It cost him more money, but he still figured out how to do it. Do you know what I mean? And now he has his wine with his California wine and all this. And so he went back to the French government and said, here, try this. See if it's not better. And so now they're all confused because he didn't break any rules. So I'll say it again. Entrepreneur is a mindset first, a skill set, and rules. And depending upon whether you're an employee or a small business, the rules are different. The mindsets are different. The skill sets are different.
The champion's mindset, I think a lot of people hear the word champion, they think of a famous sports star. You might think of, in the US, you might think of Michael Jordan or LeBron James going and dunking on somebody. But we think of it differently. We think of it as, well, when you get on the field, put everything you have into it. Put every ounce of energy you have on the field. Leave nothing on the field. And 2, when you get knocked down, because if you're an entrepreneur, inevitably you will be. When you see hard times and you get knocked down, get back up. And if you keep putting everything you got into it and you keep getting back up when you get knocked down, it's almost impossible to fail.
I think I always want to constantly evolve. I always want to constantly grow. I never want to get to a point where I feel like I got it figured out. I always want to kind of push myself to be better, and do greater things, no matter what it is. I want to be the best. I'm a competitor. I like to compete. Growing up with, with the name Michael Jordan, I've always had a certain pressure on myself, and always having to kind of prove people wrong, and I just kind of put an instant chip on my shoulder of wanting to be great, and do great things, and and also help people, man. I'm really big in the next generation. I feel like that's the only way it's gonna get better moving forward, is if, you know, you gotta leave this world in a better place than it was when you came in. You know, I'm born in '87, dash, question mark. I don't know when I'm gone, you know what I'm saying? But I wanna work on my dash, you know what I'm saying? I wanna work on that time that I'm here. And it's, if I can make it easier for the next round of filmmakers and the next round of actors coming up, you know, I'm content with going out on that.
I had a job out of college, working for a bank for a short period of time, Mellon Bank, and I decided to, well, first, it might have been Inc. magazine, this is way back when, but there was an article about changing something in how you how you save Social Security from employees' paychecks. And I literally hadn't been working there for 3 weeks. And so I sent it to the CEO of Mellon Bank. Hey, I thought you might be interested in this. Literally some guy he never heard of. And I got a note back that said thank you. And I'm thinking, okay, look, my whole motive in taking a job working for somebody was to help them become more profitable. That's the way I always looked at it. And then I started a rookies club where I reached out to some executives and all the people who had started at the same time at Mellon Bank. We'd all go out and get a drink and we'd get this executive start. And I didn't like run it through my boss or anything. And so my boss at the time calls me in and said, you're doing this. I said, yeah, thinking he's gonna say great. He just starts screaming at me and reaming me. How could you do this? You go everything through me, you work for me. Yeah, so I knew I wasn't destined there. And then I left and I went down to, ended up down in Dallas and got a job working for a company called Your Business Software. And we sold software, and I didn't know anything about software. I took one computer class at Indiana and kind of cheated to pass. But, not that I condone that, but, and so I had a customer, and I'd stay up all night, teach, reading. I figured, you know, computers were new, and technology was new, this technology was new, so nobody had a head start on me, because it was changing so rapidly like it is today, that if I just put in the time, I can learn as much as anybody else. And so I taught myself, I'd stay up late reading software manuals, taught myself different little simple programming languages, and it kept on getting bigger and bigger and better and better, but it was at a retail store. And one of my responsibilities was to come in, sweep the floor, wipe down the windows, and open the store. And I had a customer who wanted me to come out there and close a deal. And it was a $15,000 deal, $1,500 commission to me. Told my boss, he said, no, you need to be there to open the store. And I made the executive decision that I was gonna go get the check, because you know, I was living 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, sleeping on the floor, and this check meant I could like not use the same Holiday Inn towels with holes in them that I'd stolen, you know. But anyway, so I went and picked up the check thinking when I came back and gave the check to my boss, all would be forgiven and, you know, the sales cures all. Fired me. And so those back-to-back experiences confirmed what I already knew.
The one thing that has surprised you about your life?
Oh, one thing, wow. Well, I'm surprised by the whole thing, honestly. I certainly didn't expect for any of these things to happen. The only reason I started a company back in '95, an internet company, was because I couldn't get it. There were only a few internet companies and I couldn't get a job at any of them. So I tried to get a job at Netscape and sent my resume in and tried hanging out in the lobby, but I was too shy to talk to anyone. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to start a company because I can't get a job anywhere.
After college, I went to law school for 3 years and then into my dream job at a big New York law firm. But even though it had been my dream, I didn't like it once I got there. For the first time, I was feeling financially secure, but I knew I wasn't passionate enough about what I was doing. And because I didn't love it, I would never be fulfilled from it or be really good at it. Someone who loved it more would have greater enthusiasm and focus. For some, it was fun. For me, it was always going to be a horrible chore. After 5 years at a law firm, I decided I wanted to try something different. I came home and told my wife I was quitting, and she cried. And not out of happiness. Anyway, it worked out. I got a new job at a small Wall Street firm, having been rejected at every other one. We got bought out by a larger firm, and I ended up remaining at that large firm, Goldman Sachs.
Don't think when you get to a certain level, you just know everything. The same as a goal of getting to a certain amount of money. Because the minute you feel you know everything, that's the only time you're never going to learn anything, right? Because you think you know everything. And it's part of the process of always trying to figure myself out, you know? And I know everybody's main questions. Work-life balance, health, you know, working and enjoying life against working and, you know, creating something big, you know what I mean? And that is always, no matter what, throughout your education process, is something you constantly have to learn about.
Somebody comes and says, John, I want to be a leader. I always ask them the question, why? Why do you want to be a leader? I mean, do you want to be a leader because you want a corner office? Do you want to be a leader because you like to be in control? Do you want to be a leader because you love to be in the front of the pack? Do you want to be a leader because you want to have a good parking place? Why do you want to be a leader? Because leadership isn't easy. Leadership a lot of times isn't fun. Leadership a lot of times is kind of lonely. There's only one reason to be a leader, and that is to add value to people. And you and I will only add value to people if we truly value them. I have a nonprofit organization, Equip, that's trained almost 2 million leaders internationally around the world. And I kid you not, as I go to developing countries twice a year and I travel internationally and I sit down, sometimes I have the privilege of being in the offices of presidents of countries. And as I watch these developing countries, the thing that is the cardinal sin among leadership so much is that they have leaders of their countries that truly don't value the people. And if you and I don't value people, we will devalue people. Number two, if you want to add value to people, you have to make yourself more valuable. You just have to get better. You have to keep growing. You have to keep learning. You have to keep developing. Why? Very simply. If you're leading the pack, you've got to be able to give what you have, and you can't give what you don't have. And so therefore, you've got to put a lot of good stuff in so that you can pass it on to others and share with them and add value to them. Thirdly, if you want to add value to people, you have to know and relate to what other people value. You and I have to walk slowly through the crowd. We have to listen. We have to care. You see, great leaders are first of all listeners, and then they're learners, and then they're leaders. They really do take their cue from the people. They understand that the key of leadership is connecting with the people that you lead, and the only way that you and I ever connect is by caring enough to listen. Number four is very important to me. When I'm speaking in the business community, I always share with them that for them there are 3 ways to add value to people, but for me there are 4. And I tell them I'll give them the 3. And so I'll spend maybe an hour doing those 3 things I just shared with you, talking about how to add value to people. And inevitably, when I'm done with the 3, somebody raised their hand and say, John, you said that for you there was 4, but you said there's only 3 for us. I said, yes, it's nothing personal, but this is about my faith. And so I don't really need to share this with you. It's because I'm trying to help you, and I don't want to cross boundaries with you. And inevitably they'll say, but John, tell us what yours is. And I'll say, well, okay, you can hear mine, but don't write it down.
You're lost, and the problem with being lost is when you're lost, you don't know where to go, and the problem with not knowing where to go is there's a million places that you could go, and a million places is too many places for you to go without dying. So being lost is not good. So you need to know where you are, and you can kind of tell if you don't know where you are. It's quite straightforward. If you are haunted by reveries of the past, for events that are older than approximately 18 months, if they continue to come up in your mind over and over, in your dreams over and over, you haven't extracted the world out from your past experiences. The potential is still trapped in the past. And to confront the potential means to confront the dragon of the past. And of course, that's terrifying, and it can seriously be terrifying. So you're navigating, you're a navigator, you're a sailor on an ocean, man. That's what you are. You're a mobile creature. You're going from point A to point B all the time. You're not sitting there glued to a rock like some brainless, sea creature. There's a funny little creature called a hydra. very simple little creature. In its juvenile stage, it has a brain because it swims around, but then when it turns into an adult, it latches itself to a rock and promptly digests its brain. Because if you're just sitting on a rock and you're not moving, you don't need a brain. So, but that's not our issue, right? We're zipping around in the world, and so we're navigating agents. And so to navigate, there's two things you need to know. And the first is, where the hell are you? Exactly, precisely, right? Razor sharp. What's good about you and what's bad about you? By your own reckoning. You don't have to, you can ask other people, but this is a game you play yourself. It's like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm taking stock. What is it that's okay about me and what needs some work? And you got to watch to not be too self-critical when you're doing that too, because that can just be another kind of flaw.
Here's my assignment for if you want one. If you want to go from conversation to some action, here's a simple thing to do. What's an area of your life right now that you really want to improve? What's an area that's important to improve? If your body's great, how about your career? If career's great, how about your relationships? Intimate one especially, or your kids, or your relationship with your creator, your spiritual side of your life. Or is it your finances? Figure an area that really matters. Decide on that area. Number one, write down what your life is like in that area right now as specifically as possible. So you might say, well, I'm 13.5 pounds overweight, whatever the weight is, whatever the situation is, or my body fat's like this, or I wake up exhausted in the morning, and you write the truth of where you are right now. So you're real clear. Or I'm not in a relationship. I say I want a relationship, but I'm not in one, and I don't seem to find them. All the good ones seem to be gone is my belief. And I really do want one, but I don't have it. Whatever your definition. Or I'm in a relationship, and God, I wish I wasn't in a relationship. I'm planning my escape, wherever you are. Or I have a wonderful relationship, we love each other, but there just isn't enough passion. Just write the truth of where you are. The area you want to change, but write how it is. And then the second step is, this is where you got to be really honest with yourself. What are the rituals that have put me there? Because whatever results you're getting, even if you don't like the results, there's some rituals that are keeping you in that place. There's some rituals of what you eat or don't eat, how you move or don't move, how you sleep or don't sleep. There's some rituals in the lack of variety or spice or energy or focus in an area. There's something you're doing, and it's usually not one thing, it's a bunch of little things that you kind of do consistently whenever you think about getting in a relationship, whenever you think about working out, whenever you think about money. You get yourself in a state of overwhelm. You start thinking about all the things you can't control. Just write down all the rituals you have, and then here's the third step. What do you want? What's your vision? And be really specific. I want to be my fighting weight. I want to be the strongest I've ever felt. I'm going to turn whatever it is, be specific. And then, last step, number 4, what are the rituals that'll get you there? What would you need to do differently each morning if you're going to be that kind of energy, that kind of strength? How often would you work out? What days would you work out? What time? A ritual is something you do consistently, usually at a specific time, so it becomes automatic. Let me tell you something. Willpower doesn't last, but rituals can last a lifetime. I bet you have some rituals in your life right now you've been doing for years, even though some of them don't serve you. I'm just saying, wake yourself up. If you want a new year and a new life, you don't need to start on January 1st. Start today. Start with this little video. And just begin to see what happens and see how easy it is to just do a few little rituals. Don't do them all, just do 2 or 3 new things. And you know what happens? You'll get momentum. Because once you discipline yourself in one area of your life, you feel yourself doing it in other areas as well. And I always say something that my original teacher taught me. I always remind people, there's always 2 pains in life. There's the pain of discipline, or there's the pain of regret. And discipline weighs ounces, as my friend Jim Rohn taught me. Regret weighs tons. You don't have regret. So right now, what do you want to change? What's it really like? What are the rituals that got you there? That'll take a little homework. If you're not sure, ask the people around you. They'll tell you what your rituals are. What do I really want in depth? What are the rituals that'll get me there? And then get yourself to start a few of those actions and lock them in place.
Discipline creates freedom. That's it. You have to be disciplined. You have to have a method. You have to act, learn, and repeat, and you have to keep figuring it out. This book is not going to give you the answers to life. This book is going to give you a technique to act on it, and then next year, you may have to switch that technique up and use something else in there. Because people always ask us the same thing. How do you have work-life balance, How do you take care of your health? How do you advance your company, but yet pay attention to the customer that really is taking care of you? But how are you going to move into this new area of life without ignoring them? How do you get good management underneath you? How do you, cash flow is always an issue. How do you increase sales or reduce costs? How do you gain new customers in the world? What do you do with your kids? How do you spoil the kids or not spoil the kids? We all have the same exact problems. So what we have to do is look at these techniques and create a bunch of disciplinary actions, and you'll see what works and what doesn't. But some things are not going to work. You can fix it. You got to fix it, The
more clear you are about exactly what it is you want, the more your brain knows how to get there. Your brain is a servo mechanism. It's like a bomb. Those bombs, those missiles, they have a servo mechanism. So if the target moves, it knows what the target is, it follows it. Your brain, when you condition it, knows exactly what to go for and it'll find a way to get there. Do you ever buy a certain outfit or a certain car and suddenly see that car outfit everywhere? How many of you have had that experience? Say, aye. How come that car outfit's everywhere? It always was everywhere, but now you notice it. And the reason is because there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. That part of your brain determines what you notice and what you don't notice. Your brain spends most of its time trying to make sure you don't notice because you'll go crazy if you notice everything. But when you decide what's most important to you, your brain goes after it. Everyone I know who's successful builds what I call an RPM plan. An RPM is built on the metaphor that the way to get from where you are to where do you want to go to the fastest is you got to build power, like in a car, RPMs. And the R stands for they know the result they're after. They know what they want precisely. If you don't know exactly what you want or you let yourself get beyond that into something general, you're not going to achieve it. Clarity is power. You got to know the specific result you're after. What do you want? If you can't answer that question right now in your personal life, in your body, in your relationships, in your finances, in your spirituality, then you're not going to be as fulfilled as you want to be.
Obsession with adding more value than anybody else ever dreamed of. I mean, my entire life from the very beginning days was how do I do more for others than anyone else on earth? How do I give them experiences that are lasting? How do I create change where change was impossible? How do I take somebody who's been in therapy for 7 years and in an hour produce that result? And the way I did that was by challenging traditional psychologists and psychiatrists and getting on national radio and saying, give me your worst patient, I'll handle them in an hour, which was pretty abrasive. As a young kid, you can get by with that stuff. But the best part was I backed it up. And so one of the first interventions I did was in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I got on the radio. And this psychiatrist got on the phone and just on the radio live and just thrashed me. You're a liar, you're a charlatan, people like you should not be allowed on the radio. Mm-hmm. And I said, sir, I said, are you a scientist? He said, of course I'm a physician. Mm-hmm. I said, well, a scientist would never make an assumption. And I said, you've never met me, right? No. You've never met my clients? No. And you're calling me a liar on national radio. I said, you must be stating your hypothesis. Your hypothesis is that I'm a liar and a charlatan, and if you're stating a hypothesis and you're truly a scientist, you got to be willing to test it. Mm-hmm. Am I right? Yep. He goes, well, yeah. I said, great. I'm doing a free guest event at the Holiday Inn tomorrow night. Anyone hearing my voice can come. I'm going to do a series of demonstrations, and I'm going to take one of your clients and turn around. I said, share with me somebody that you've never been able to change. I said, I'm sure you got plenty of those. You want to play hardball? I can play hardball. He goes, well, I have patients that aren't ready to change yet. I said, I haven't found any. Of course, I've done 3 therapies total. But I had so much belief. So long story short, he told me this woman he'd been working on for 7 years with a snake phobia. A phobia is not just a fear, it's an uncontrollable response to fear. So like, she dreamed the snake would bite her on the face and then the adrenaline would shoot through her body and wake her up. And this would happen 4 to 7 times a night. 7 years. So, he was put in a corner, and so he brought her down, and it took me about 15 minutes. At the end of it, I tested first, and she's screaming and shaking, and then I wrapped the snake around her. And that changed my entire career, because in that moment, there was no question, everybody in the audience saw that this woman is transformed. And I said, you've been treated by that psychiatrist for how many years? Wow. 7 years. Then I took on sports stars. Then I turned around, I did some work with Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and Bill Clinton. And as the years went by, it just built.
I think it was a few times that I thought I booked it, like for sure, and you didn't, and like just being heartbroken, and having my mom and my dad kind of pick up the pieces, and I think that was the few times that they actually started to question themselves, are we doing the right thing by letting them do it and do this and try to act and take on this profession that it's such a gamble and it's a lottery, such a lottery, and you just train yourself to like manage your expectations for the most part when it comes to auditions. I know a system that I started doing was like after the audition, after I left out, I would just throw my sides away. You know, if they really want me, I'll just print them out again. You know, I'll go out and I'll go through the hassle, go to Kinko's, and 'cause I didn't have a printer at the time, and print them out again. And that was just my way of training myself to just forget about it when you leave. You know, it's not, it's out of your hands. You've done all you can do. Worrying about it is not gonna, excuse me, help you get the job. So, I mean, it's tough, you know, when it has nothing to do with you. You know, you could have the most talent in the world, feel as though you're perfect for it, and still not get it because, you know, maybe the other lead is a little too tall, and you guys don't compliment each other well on screen. It has nothing to do with you whatsoever. And just kind of wrapping your head around the process and knowing that it's completely out of your hands, it's just easier for you to kind of let go and move on to the next thing.
You had a great job. I remember you had a great apartment on the Upper West Side.
I've been married for a year.
You've been married for a year.
I had not been eating biscuits for 9 months.
And I'm just, you know, how did you go through making the decision to drop what was a very good job and take this chance? It all seems very obvious now, right? This many years later that it paid off, but at the time it was not obvious.
No, it wasn't. And I did do a lot of soul searching. I went to my boss at the time, and I really liked my job. And I told my boss I was going to go do this thing, start an internet bookstore. And my wife I'd already told my wife, and she's like, "Great, let's go." And I said to my boss, "I was going to do this." He's like, "This is a good idea." He said, "I think this is a good idea, but it would be an even better idea for somebody who didn't already have a good job." And that sort of made some logical sense to me, and he convinced me to think about it for a couple of days, so I went away. And I was really trying to get my head around how to think about this. And I think, for me, the right way to make that kind of very personal decision, because those decisions are personal, they're not like data-driven business decisions. They are, you know, what does your heart say? And for me, the best way to think about it was to project myself forward to age 80 and say, look, when I'm 80 years old, I want to have minimized the number of regrets that I have. I don't want to be 80 years old in a quiet moment of reflection, thinking back over my life and cataloging a bunch of major regrets. And I think that regrets, our biggest regrets, in most cases, you can murder somebody, okay, you'd regret that. But in most cases, our biggest regrets turn out to be acts of omission. It's paths not taken, and they haunt us. We wonder, what would have happened? I loved that person, and I never told them. And then they married somebody else. I didn't do this. And so that's the frame of mind that I put myself in. And once I did that, once I thought about it that way, it was immediately obvious to me. I knew that when I'm 80, I would never regret trying this thing that I was super excited about and it failing. If it failed, fine. I would be very proud of the fact when I'm 80 that I tried.